We're so back, and today we're looking at another story in the rap beefs of 2024. This time it's Drake vs Future and Metro Boomin. Drake and Future specifically have a storied relationship going as far back as 2011 and Take Care. And I think most Drake fans, Future fans, and rap fans loved this duo over the years, and it really felt like seeing your parents fight. At the very least, it seemed like they were good friends in music, and to us on the outside, it looks like that might have been a lie all along, or a surprising and sad rift. So we'll be diving into that today. I am tying this story together with Metro because I do think he plays a role in between Drake and Future, kinda linking them all together. Metro and Drake have an interesting history to say the least, and one that is still shrouded in mystery, but we'll do our best to make sense of it. I feel like I need to mention this in the first 10 seconds of these type of videos. I am a Drake fan. Obviously, we're looking at Drake's relationship with these people and these people's relationship with Drake. If you just hate Drake and can't enjoy a video like this, do us both a favor and just skip it. I'll call out Drake when I think he's in the wrong and acknowledge when I think he's being done dirty. And with that little disclaimer out the way, I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and let's dive into this two-part story. And keep an eye on the channel for the final 2 stories on this beef that I'll be doing. Thank God. This one hurt my soul and definitely caught me off guard. But after doing some research into their early history, I didn't realize how many times there was some kind of tension between them. It all started with Drake being a fan first, around the time of Take Care, and was actually something he bonded with The Weeknd over, Future's Atlanta sound and movement. Drake then featured on multiple Future songs and remixes. People believe this benefited them both. Drake was able to present Future to a wider audience, while Future was able to give Drake a seal of approval in the streets. But notably, despite Drake featuring on Future's Tony Montana, he didn't appear in the music video, which reportedly annoyed and hurt Future. He called it a slap in the face, saying that he turned down a lot of Atlanta-based rappers to have Drake on the song, only for it to not fully materialize like how he had envisioned. He respected Drake, saying that having him on the song deserves a salute, but the total vision not being completed refunds the salute. The next major interaction happened in August 2013 with another clash. Speaking on Power 106, Future credited himself for inspiring the hook on Started From the Bottom, but wasn't acknowledged for it. Instead of Drake giving him a credit for this, he bought Future a bottle of Louis XIII as a thanks presumably, but Future didn't want a gift, he wanted publishing. And on October 4th, Future was rolling out his album, Honest, and spoke to Erica Ramirez of Billboard. They ended up on the subject of Drake's Nothing Was the Same, and Future gives it a perceived backhanded compliment. He says, Drake made an album that's full of hits, but it doesn't grab you. They're not possessive. They don't make you feel the way I do. And then follows this by confidently claiming that his music is still better than a lot of rappers that were dropping at the time. And as journalists do, these sorts of quotes are gold, and she took to Twitter to post them, which Future reacted to on there saying, "Respect to Billboard, disappointed on being misquoted. Always love for my fam, Drizzy Drake." Future's managers claimed that these quotes were not only meant to be off the record, but were taken out of context. But Future clearing the air here was seemingly not enough, as he was supposed to be touring with Drake on his tour, Would You Like a Tour, but was kicked off once Drake saw these quotes. Drake allegedly told his booking manager to fire Future or that he would be fired. And within days, Future was dropped from the tour, but there were attempts at reconciliation, with Drake insisting that Future should take a pay cut to come back. Future refused and reportedly filed a $1.5 million lawsuit against Drake for lost wages after being removed from the tour. And somehow, just like every other time they've had a problem, they've been able to squash it and work out the differences. Future announced that things were set to continue as planned, with him going on tour with Drake and Miguel. So nothing between them suggested that their relationship was thriving by this point, except for the fact that unlike his relationship with Kendrick, they've been able to talk things out and patch things up. The next collaboration came in 2015, first on Future's Where You At on DS2, but later that year they dropped a fan favourite joint mixtape, What a Time to Be Alive. And following that year, they co-headlined the Summer 16 tour and were on top of the world. In Drake's Apple Music interview recorded on the night of View's release, Drake spoke about his relationship with Future. Drake has a ton of respect for Future's work ethic and talent, calling him a machine for his prolific work in the studio, having a vault filled with hits that Drake is excited for. But he praises his authentic approach and credits that to what makes him so great and so popular. Drake also praises the whole Atlanta scene here, specifically referencing Metro Boomin and DJ Esco, 2 producers who worked heavily with Future at this time. He commends the work rate of them 3, always ready to work and make music. And from 2015 to 2022, the pair seemed to have a great working relationship and are perceived from the outside to be really good friends in the industry. Drake does joke about making a What a Time to Be Alive 3 in 2019 when asked about his retirement plans. Not only does this serve as a marker of their relationship, as he can joke about this, but it suggests that more collaborative work is on the way. even though What a Time to Be Alive 2 would be a thing. But he does joke that rapping about drugs like Activist and Percocet are not things he thinks he'll be doing when he's older, specifically saying in 7 years' time as of 2019. But obviously things can change, like Drake planning on retiring at 35. Fast forwarding through their happy times and successful collaborations, rocky signs started emerging in 2022 around the time of Future's I Never Liked You, which includes 2 Drake features. This ended up being their last collaboration, and rumors circulated that there were some problems arising as the album was teed up to release, which explains why they never actively promoted the songs or performed it together. He did appear in the music video, so things were good at that time unless they were just focused on doing the right business move and getting the song done. I could be misremembering or misquoting, so take this with a pinch of salt. But I think Trey Richards of 4YE and Random Order fame, who was one of the actors in the music video, said that there were weird vibes on set, like Drake and Future weren't really talking to each other. This could be complete bullshit that my brain is coming up with, and I haven't found the clip from the podcast episode where this might have been said. And in the behind the scenes video uploaded on Future's channel, they seem fine. Either way, tensions were brewing clearly, but Future had 2 great songs that he wanted to include on his album either way. He wasn't about to throw away 2 Drake features. But the earliest possible diss actually came out 7 months later in November on Drake and 21 Savage's joint album. There's a lot to say about this album, but let's start with the song that likely disses Future. It was something that I don't think many people picked up on at the time. I know I didn't. For the past 2 years, I thought Drake was dissing Metro on his own beat here, which would have been crazy, but I think we can pretty safely connect Drake's verse to Future now. Future has been claimed as an OVO affiliate, forming a joint association with his crew Free Bands, making Free Bands OVO or FBG OVO, and has rocked OVO gear numerous times. But Drake goes off in the final section of his verse, alluding to a fake friend in the industry who appreciates Drake when he's attaching his name to their project, but behind closed doors has a totally different opinion of Drake which he reveals to the girls he sees, only for it to come back around to Drake. This is shocking and seems confusing, but given our timeline, it makes sense. Drake was beefing with Future at this point behind closed doors, but Future went ahead and benefited from Drake on his new album. 2 months after this joint album came out, Future apparently wasn't too happy about Drake doing a collaborative album with 21 Savage. Although this is all rumors with no direct confirmation from Future, it was reported that he thought that Drake doing this album diminished their What a Time to Be Alive. But the real question is, why are they beefing? Well, thank God for internet detectives because we have a lead. I don't want to call out anyone's name wrongly and attach them into this mess, but she's addressed this and we'll get to that. But the woman who might have started their feud or been a part of it is a girl named Diana who works at Booby Trap. Drake mentions Booby Trap in a few songs, but the most fitting is Fear of Heights from For All the Dogs in October 2023, just under a year later. In the final lines of the song, Drake is competing with another guy for the attention of a girl who works at the club and flexes that he has more money and more hits than him. But there's another song on the project called What Would Pluto Do? Pluto is Future's nickname that only his close friends call him, according to him. And while this song never struck me as negative or a diss, but actually the opposite in a weird way, combining the premise of the song and the rumors of their beef being tied to a woman, Drake may be revealing that he just did what Future would have done. Basically, it seems like there was a woman in between them that Future was dating or seeing, and Drake added himself to the equation on the side, or when Future had moved on. Either way, Future started feeling disrespected. But Drake uses Future's own toxicity against him as an excuse for his actions, suggesting that he would do the same if the roles were reversed. If we view those songs as shots at Future, his response came in the title track, We Don't Trust You. I think it's interesting that any sort of response came in the title track and supports the idea that Drake inspired parts of the album at least. The entire theme of the album and its title track are fake friends in the industry, mirroring the betrayal that Drake feels by the album as a whole. If the album was designed as an attack on Drake, it makes it unclear who was fake in the relationship because they would argue it's each other. But it's in the second verse of the song where we can start making connections to Drake, aside from the general vibe of the entire song itself. The repeated use of dog to end each line may reference Drake's last album, For All the Dogs. He also might be calling Drake his #1 fan after making a song inspired by and named after Future. This feels likely because it's something that Drake refutes on Push-Ups. But here, Future also says that they're sharing a woman, which would fit with rumors and cause of their beef. But wait, there's more. Because there's a song called Magic Don Juan, Princess Diana, on the album, which feels like a final piece in our jigsaw puzzle. Don Juan is a fictional character whose life is devoted to seducing women. As a libertine, he freely indulges in sensual pleasure, casting aside moral principles. And perhaps a little Easter egg for us nerds, this isn't the first time Future has used those words together before, with the other time being on The Plug from What a Time to Be Alive. Boom. Future compares himself to this character while talking about a girl working at Magic City. And the second half of the song is the Princess Diana half, which makes obvious connections to the late Princess Diana of Wales, who was known to have an extremely expensive and rare collection of jewelry, something that Future raps about in the first half. And it wouldn't be too far-fetched to think a rapper is using a double entendre and inferring that the priceless jewels that he gives her ices her out like royalty. Now, the girl in question, our Princess Diana, denies being the source of beef between Drake and Future, going on Instagram Live and saying that she's just a regular person and not that important. Metro Boomin also replied to the internet detectives on Twitter who made some of these connections and urged them to stop making things up and enjoy the music. And that's one thing I can agree with Metro on. But for the sake of this video, this is what we think as fans, unable to know the finer details, is causing one of our favorite duos to split and possibly never collaborate again. And that's especially because it keeps going. There's actually another girl who's rumored to be the source of their beef and is mentioned in more songs coming up. That is Just Tokyo, allegedly Future's assistant who Drake slept with. This is also very much unconfirmed, but some of the lyrics we'll get to make some strong allusions to point us this way. Rumors also have it that her and Future have been dating for years. I'm not going to act like I know the relationship status of these people, but I can't imagine Future dating. But this takes us to Push-Ups, Drake's explosive response to all of his enemies. The very first line and section could be directed to Future, firstly being a direct reply to the title track We Don't Trust You. Drake also makes the point that these rappers need him for their commercial success and they peak when they work with him. Tying this line specifically to Future, as far as #1 hits go, his first #1 song on the Billboard was Way Too Sexy from Drake's Certified Lover Boy. What's interesting is apparently this song was originally a Future song that he gave to Drake, although perhaps making it a Drake song made it even bigger than it would have been otherwise. The next lines tee up his Tokyo bar, and it's likely that it's about just Tokyo, as Japan is actually one of Drake's worst performing markets and he's actually never performed there before. Drake being big in Tokyo may be him crudely saying that he slept with her. Drake is also a psychological warfare demon, ask Kanye, so it's possible that Drake is just putting out the suggestion to mess with Future and make him question it. But she was spotted backstage at his Miami show from the It's All a Blur tour in September 2023, and was also seen backstage at Future's Rolling Loud show in early March before We Don't Trust You was released wearing an album-branded hoodie. He continues by mentioning two of the major points of their feud and Drake's view of it. He sees himself as vital to Future's career and all of his other fake friends as they depend on his name and involvement for hits. But he also makes the point that these artists are two-faced, acting differently in person, perhaps especially in Toronto, compared to what he hears when they're not around. The Chip and Dale line is really interesting and lets us know that this line is definitely directed to Future. Chip and Dale are two chipmunks who first appeared in the cartoon Private Pluto in 1943. These chipmunks were known for outsmarting Donald Duck and Pluto, the dog. And Just Tokyo, the girl they're allegedly beefing over, posted a picture of Chanel shoes on her Instagram story the day after attending one of Drake's shows. How people find this shit out, I don't know. The last couple bars of push-ups that are worth noting are the Rolling Loud lines. This references that same show I mentioned, but Future and Metro also previewed like that there, but a version without Kendrick's verse on it. This might mean that his verse was a late addition, or that they just played an earlier version of the song. But Kiss and Tell is a reference to Future's famous ex-fiancée and baby mother, or BM, Sierra, and her hit song from 2015 of the same name. After having a child together, their engagement was called off after Sierra suspected that Future was cheating on her. I think this line is just Drake being clever and weaving all these references together, but he may be threatening Future's relationship with Just Tokyo, who was at that show, planting a seed that he could be cheating on her right now and that he wouldn't be so happy and confident if she found out. Drake had a little more to add about his relationship with Future on Family Matters, but fans noticed that Drake seemed to go easy on him. Him saying that he and Future have never really been through it is weird to me because they've had various rifts and fights but also patched it up. But also, we're led to believe that they've been beefing in silence for the past year and a half, but here, Drake says it like it's a surprise. I think the line is not referencing the last month, but actually the last year and a half and this fallout he's had with Future. While they've had their problems before, it's never been like this and not escalated to a point of no return. Although that tour thing seemed kinda crazy. It's worth noting that Drake's beef with Metro Boomin, which I'll cover in a minute, definitely played a role in Drake's faltering relationship with Future. Future siding with Metro and continuing to work with him closely, especially with this album, felt like a twisting of the knife in his back. Drake views Metro as a negative influence that pulled Future away from him and also corrupted his view of him, as Drake believes that they were real friends once. And things were quiet until August, when Drake released It's Up and No Face. There's a line on It's Up that has Drake addressing the theme of relationships with girls costing him friends, as a lot of these guys have problems with him over women. Drake doesn't view his relationship with these girls as anything serious, and as a result, can't believe it's having such a detrimental and lasting effect on his friendships. And then on No Face, Drake more broadly refers to all of the artists who have benefited from having Drake as a friend and collaborator, with Rick Ross and Future being the two most likely targets of this. I talked about the Drake stimulus package in the Rick Ross video. And after tense silence, Young Thug, a respected mutual friend, tried to mediate their beef by putting out a tweet on October 18th, including Drake, Future, and Metro, and saying that they're family, and music isn't the same without them collaborating and being cool with each other. Future retweeted this, seeming to agree with the sentiment. And that's the vibe I get from Future in this beef. Maybe it's because he seems like a low-key guy, but I don't view him enjoying their beef, and his silence has been pretty telling too. He doesn't want to commit to saying something he'll regret or that really severs their ties. I think this rift between him and Drake isn't something he wants, but it takes one of them putting their pride to the side and hashing it out like they've done in the past. It may also reveal that the beef and tension is largely between Drake and Metro, leaving Future in the difficult position of siding with his friend, Metro. Also, Thug calling them brothers makes it seem like they are close, at least by the music industry standard, and that their relationship has always been more than a typical collaborative one that exists to make money and hits. According to Elliot Wilson in November 2024, it was reported that Drake and Future reconciled over the phone, but DJ Academics disputes this, saying that he spoke to extremely reliable sources on both sides and says that it isn't true. And a couple of Drake's releases in the following months seem to corroborate that. On his Fighting Irish freestyle, in which he gets introspective about the past year of beef, one line could be directed to Future and Metro, linking back to Thug's tweet wanting them to reconcile. But it could also tie back to one of Drake and Future's earliest tensions around the time of Nothing Was the Same, with Drake thinking or realizing that Future has been fake all along and for over a decade. But almost a year later, on Drake and Party Next Door's Some Sexy Songs For You, Drake does mention Tokyo again on the track CN Tower. This bar makes it clear that he's not talking about the city and is instead talking about the girl. It's reminiscent of his lines on Push-Ups and likely another subliminal meant for Future, whether there's truth to it or not. And on Brian Steele, the song named after Young Thug's attorney, he makes another reference to the Thug tweet, and here Drake says that he can't forgive these guys and just put it aside. This was something I was hoping for earlier in the beef. And in learning about their history and doing some research for this video, it seemed like something they could patch up like they've done in the past. But his career and very livelihood were threatened by this war that started on a project that Drake thinks had bad intentions from the start. And now, despite people reaching out and wanting to patch things up, he's moved on and is grateful that he now realizes evil eyes were staring at him this whole time as friends in disguise. Metro Boomin is one of the most prolific and decorated producers in modern rap, coming out of the Atlanta scene and being a frequent Future collaborator early in his career and still to this day. But Drake and Metro's paths first crossed in 2014 with Metro co-producing I Love McConan's Tuesday. But Drake had a lot of respect for Metro and DJ Esco, the two producers that Future surrounded himself with Drake shouting them out in 2015. Both producers had a hand in Drake and Future's collaborative album What a Time to Be Alive, with Metro co-executive producing it, having a hand in almost every song, and debuting his iconic tagline on Jumpman. I do want to speed through some of their collaborations because there were no signs of tension or beef for years. In fact, things seemed really good even if their collaborations were few and far between. Drake actually seemed to do Metro a huge favor by featuring on his first rap song, No Complaints, in 2017. Drake co-signing him was a huge symbol of faith and support and a huge help to get people to listen to it. The next track came in 2020 on 21 Savage's Mr. Right Now, and then again in 2021 on Drake's Knife Talk. As far as credits go, I do think it's interesting and worth noting that Drake has not really worked with Metro in isolation aside from No Complaints. And the fact that Drake hasn't brought him on for any of his own albums. Drake usually works with Metro mutually through either Future or 21 Savage. It was in the time between their next collaboration when tragedy would strike and Metro's mother would be killed. Out of respect for his family, I won't go into the details of that, but for the purpose of our story and their relationship, new information came out during Young Thug's leaked jail calls that revealed Drake's lack of support or consideration for Metro during this horrible and difficult time. Thug said that Drake was stupid for the way he treated Metro during this time, when no doubt so many others in the industry would have offered their condolences. It's implied that Drake sent a half-assed message of support, if that, when in reality he seemed to want music from Metro, whether it was something for her loss or a beat for something else. I think it's very likely that this is a big cause of their beef, or at the least a major factor and something that severed their relationship beyond repair. Metro felt like Drake was being disrespectful by dismissing his loss and treating him like a worker. This is also reinforced by Young Thug's leaked calls, where he makes the point that Drake's stardom makes him think everything revolves around him at times, that people like Metro should fall in line and work with him when he asks. Understandably, Metro would have had a cold reply for Drake, either by not replying or flat out refusing to work with him, and Drake might have taken that as disrespectful. All of this led to mutual tension. Despite that, Her Loss came out in November, and Metro's producer-led album Heroes and Villains came out a month later in December. Without those leaked calls, the biggest point of contention we could look into as a real cause of their feud was trance. Some people think that it was supposed to be on Honestly Nevermind, Drake's house and Baltimore club album, which was released 5 months earlier. But I think that's an inaccurate report because what I've been able to find out is that this song was always Metro's, and that he always had a clear vision for this song being on his album. But the story goes, as per his conversation with DJ Drama, Metro invited Drake to the studio to potentially work on something for Heroes and Villains, and played in what he had to see what Drake wanted to work on. This is super normal. What makes it less normal is the timing of things. But piecing together everything we now know, Drake and Metro's studio meeting was likely in early 2022, before the passing of Metro's mother, and obviously before the release of Honestly Nevermind. Metro would have liked Drake to be on the album, like the rest of the star-studded cast, but once Drake heard Trance with Young Thug and Travis Scott, that's all he wanted to work on. It was that or nothing. But Metro felt like the song was done, and didn't think there was any more room on it for another verse. Drake insisted that Metro let him record his verse, and that he can make the final call on whether to use it or not. I think Metro would have liked to have a Drake feature, preferably on a different song, but wasn't going to just force him on Trance because it's Drake. So respect to him. He put his craft first and said that it was nothing personal. So Drake did record his edition, and Metro eventually opted for the non-Drake version in the end. But Drake's version did leak, and some people think that the Petty King organised the leak for people to compare and hear what could have been. And something from this point forward changed. Drake never collaborated with Metro again, and by all accounts, turned down songs that Metro was involved in, showing a disinterest in ever working with him again. There's likely a few examples of this that we don't know about, but I think his French Montana cease and desist demand was based on Metro's involvement in the song he was supposed to feature on, Splash Brothers from Mac and Cheese 5. But this information provides some context to their text and tension in the middle of 2022 while Metro was grieving. At first, it seemed like Drake was being an apathetic narcissistic star with no heart. And while it doesn't excuse his supposed actions or lack thereof, there was lingering tension and feelings of disrespect in the air between them. But some things are bigger than pride and music and should be put to the side for courtesy and decency. And that's not me excusing Drake's reaction to being denied trance either. I can definitely see Metro's perspective of viewing Drake as entitled. But as there always is, there are more sides to the story and more things bubbling beneath the surface. Metro made a tweet replying to fans, jumping in on the discourse around the success of Her Loss and Heroes and Villains on December 2nd, 2023. His album was still receiving more streams per day at around 10 million to Her Loss's 4 million. He says the difference in critical acclaim between the albums is proof of the politics of award shows, but then claims that he doesn't care. He said the real award is knowing that people enjoy his music, but then he deleted his tweet. Drake subtly replied on his Instagram story the same day by using a Jay-Z lyric from Heart of the City, Ain't No Love, and unfollowed him. I think the lyrics are meant to little bro Metro and call him out for sounding like an envious hater in the moment. And just 2-ish weeks later, during one of his gambling streams, he threatens the non-believers, the underachievers, and the tweet and deleters, saying that they make him sick to his stomach. And weeks after that, when 21 Savage released his album American Dream, which was produced by Metro, Drake supported his friend 21 by posting a song from the album, but covered and blocked out any sign of Metro's name next to it. So their war had become a little more public at this time, initially with Metro taking to Twitter to air some frustrations and like some posts that share his opinion. Notably, everything public had to do with music. It's clear that Drake felt slighted by Metro, seemingly initially from the trance situation. And from Metro's point of view, well, there's a lot of reasons for him to hate Drake. There's the obvious one, but I also think Metro might have never really respected Drake or harbored some hate or jealousy of his success compared to his own. Perhaps feeling like he's underappreciated as a producer compared to some rappers. And either through his tweets or from someone close to Metro, Drake eventually had the impression that Metro was envious of him and hated him behind his back, but would seemingly act differently when they were face to face. Metro and Future had been close friends and collaborators for a decade, and now were both beefing with Drake for their own reasons. Drake believes that Metro roped Future into making their joint album, We Don't Trust You, which was just 2 months away and was undeniably the catalyst setting off many of Drake's deep-seated and tenuous feuds. Whether by design or not, the pair gave Kendrick the platform to respond to J. Cole and Drake's words on First Person Shooter, allowing the drama to be associated with their album. I just say that because Kendrick's Big Me claim was also a diss to Future, and he felt that but pushed aside his pride to let it exist on his album. So things were definitely more premeditated than we think, at least from maximizing his sales through a must-see feature in Kendrick and his explosive verse, making the attention too good to turn down. And that's all there really is to their beef before we get to their back and forth jabs during their disses, which can fill in some gaps and confirm some of our suspicions. In push-ups, Drake had very little to say to Metro, reducing him to a simple drummer and someone who doesn't even deserve to be addressed on this song. I think that says a lot about Drake's opinion of Metro and signifies a big part of their beef and differences. Drake clearly knows this is something that's a sore spot for Metro and something he can attack. But it's in the days after Push-Ups was released that Drake had fun playing into this bar on social media. He trolled Metro with a series of Instagram stories related to the line. One with Metro's face superimposed onto a clip from the 2002 movie Drumline, another showing a marching band playing outside the venue where Metro had promoted We Don't Trust You, and a third showing a merengue remix of the line. Drake had some more to add on his second track, Family Matters. He makes a claim about Metro's friend and his girlfriend. Metro denied this on Twitter, saying that the Push-Ups line was laughable, but he wasn't okay with Drake spreading lies or involving his loved ones. Drake follows that line by implying that Metro is doing all of this for attention. Drake believes that this whole We Don't Trust You explosion was done for attention, and attacking Drake added that. I think like a lot of star producers, the artist they work with really dictates their popularity and the success of their albums. Either way, I don't think there's a ton in this line, it could just go for everyone who's battling. The Leland Wayne bar is much more relevant as he calls out Metro by his government name and claims that he had a huge influence in the failing friendship of him and Future. He thinks he was a negative influence and a big reason why they had a fallout. Drake feels like We Don't Trust You and We Still Don't Trust You were plans to take him down, which is really self-centered. This is something that Metro and Future deny later, claiming that another man could never be their motive for making music and art. But it is hard to dispute the features of noted rivals of Drake, with Metro reportedly working with Pusha T, but also Kanye, A$AP Rocky, and more obviously The Weeknd and Kendrick Lamar. Metro played into his producer role by releasing a beat instead of a diss track, offering a free beat and a cash reward to the best verse recorded with his BBL Drizzy beat. Metro also sent a flurry of tweets out attacking Drake, calling him a colonizer and bringing his race into question, making homophobic suggestions regarding his painted nails, and even joking why Drake knows that Weeknd songs are played at gay clubs. There's a lot of tweets that Metro apparently felt like getting off his chest at 9 AM in Amsterdam. I'll leave a link to them all and show what I can find on screen. It poked at Drake's plastic surgery and body image questions. Drake laughed at Metro's crash out and Family Matters response, replying to a DJ Academic screenshot on Instagram saying, "You just chefed a beat about my ass?" But interestingly, Metro urged Drake to go ahead and make another song full of lies because he knows that Drake can't tell everybody why Metro hates him. This is obviously really cryptic, but reveals a lot at the same time. It confirms that their beef is bigger than a slight or full-on disrespect even, as it seems like it wouldn't be a good look for either of them if it came out. Drake did end up using another Metro beat, but this time it was the open source BBL Drizzy on his feature with Sexy Red on You My Everything. Drake flips the term to imply that he's earned the name BBL Drizzy by paying for so many girls to get BBLs. Other than that slap in the face of using his beat in a positive way and making money off it, there's no Metro disses on the song really. In Drake's No Face, released in August, he's happy that his fake friends and envious contemporaries have made their bed and chosen their side by making their hate public. Drake and Metro's beef beforehand was never something we knew for certain and could only infer from a few reports. Now we know they won't be putting their problems aside and linking up again anytime soon. Metro Boomin and Future were on the cover of GQ's Men of the Year issue from December to January and spoke to them about the details of their beef with Drake. Metro assures us that their falling out was due to an unspecific personal issue and that it wasn't over a girl or something silly like that. This is relevant and fair because that was one of the possible reasons that people had suspected. Drake has a history of having relationships with girls that other artists have had. And one bit of speculation that I bought into for a long time was that Drake heard how Metro really felt about him from a girl that he was talking to in bed or whatever, and it eventually found its way to Drake, revealing that Metro didn't fuck with him. But if we believe what Metro said, he claims that there's a definitive reason why he doesn't like Drake, and Drake knows it. But it would be bad for both of their images, I assume, if it was revealed. But Metro has calmed down by this point compared to his tornado of tweets earlier in the year. He compares their beef to a regular friendship and how sometimes you can just so happen to fall out with a person over anything. But for them, it was in front of an audience. We at least hear that Metro did view Drake as a friend at one point, but it is hard to fully take anything he says at face value. And in the same vein, although I do believe them, both Future and Metro shut down the rumors and speculation that they based their collab albums around their shared disdain for Drake. They laughed at and mocked the notion of spending time and money to make those albums just to hate on an artist, saying that's some serious hate. And that brings us to 2025, and I think there is one song that has some pretty clear references to Metro, and that is Glorious from Some Sexy Songs For You. There's not a ton in it, but Drake uses a double entendre of bands and a drummer to suggest that he has money, unlike someone he's called a drummer before. And a following line also mentions a cape and getting saved, which could be references to Metro's Not All Heroes Wear Capes and Heroes and Villains projects, just making the connection and intended target that much clearer. And that's all we know about Drake's beef with Metro. Despite their early collaboration and a sign of early support from Drake, it's not clear how close they ever were. Envy and jealousy could have played a role in Metro's dislike for Drake, who may have always seen Metro as a glorified drummer. But I think these things changed over time and were perhaps revealed in a dramatic way, with things said in confidence getting around. That led to a discussion, or perhaps distance, likely around the time of Trance and Drake's version being cut, leaving Metro to air his frustrations about Drake as someone who thinks he knows better and can do better than him. But some things are bigger than petty things like that. Family, tragedy, and disrespect seem to be at the root of their feud, and perhaps within that lies something that neither of them would be proud to divulge, but that would explain it all.